Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Shapita Tvameva Tvameva bandhuscha sakha Tvameva Tvameva vidyadravitam Tvameva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva Tvameva sarvam mama deva deva. Yatha sarvani bhutani pratibhanti stithani cha yatraivo pashamam yanti tasmai satyatmane namaha. Priya, I think it's going to get chilly. Can I ask you to go into the bedroom and close the window? It will also help with noise. So where are we in our text?
Chapter 9, number 46.
Chapter 9, number 46. Do we have Ganesh?
Yeah, I'm here, Jim.
Okie dokie. Will you help us out, please?
Vasanakalayan sopi yatyahangkaratam punah ahankaro vinirneta kalanki buddhiruchyate. He, the knower of the field, too, putting on or assuming mental impressions, again goes to the state of ego. The ego is the judge or decision maker, and the intellect is faulty or stained, since it causes the illusion of identification with the body.
So the reference here is to Bhagavad Gita, where we have Kshetra Kshetranya, the knower of the field. So the idea is because of the vasanas, the unconscious impressions, that remember, a vasana has two powers: veiling power, varana shakti, and projecting power, vikshepa shakti. The veiling power, what we do is literally, spiritually go to sleep. I have the non-apprehension of myself as Brahman. And then I dream I am Jim or Priya or Mike. And a world of name and form that's separate from me. Inherently joy-giving or misery-producing. And then comes struggle, kartavya. I'll be happy when, it'll be better if, more, better, different. What are you addicted to? More. I'm a more fiend. I just want more. And that drives us through the cycle of births and deaths. I was working on a text that was new to me that David Silva brought by a Mahatma named Atmananda, contemporary of Ramana Maharshi. And he used the sense of how the waves come up on the ocean and they get tired, finally go back to the ocean. So you and I are like waves. After lifetimes, it's so repetitive, it's so boring, and it's so fatiguing. I want rest. I want to come home. And then, like the wave goes back to the ocean, so we come home to Brahman. Beautiful piece of imagery. Next verse.
बुद्धि संकल्प कलिता प्रयाति मननास्पदम मनो घन विकल्पम तु गच्छतीन्द्रियतां शनैः पाणिपादादिमद्देहम् इन्द्रियाणि विदु बुधाः. The intellect seized by will or wish becomes the seat of thinking. The mind, by dense or great uncertainty or error, indeed attains to the state of the senses slowly. Wise men regard the senses as the body possessed of hands, feet, and other organs. Note, the above four verses trace the appearance of the gross physical body from the one undivided consciousness.
Yes. And we don't need to know about the paradigms. These are maps, not territory. They differ slightly from scripture to scripture. But the whole idea is the first thought that emerges in the dream of this world is, I am a person. And then this karta, this agent, starts getting all involved in the world. And because of delusion and illusion, I have a feeling of spiritual impoverishment. I'm not enough, there's not enough. I need, and it's serious business for the ego. And the mind always presents that the way to be free from the neediness, I need a better job, I need a partner, I need to get rid of the partner. If only I had a house, if only I lived here, if only I lived there. So many ways the mind presents what's going to make me feel okay. $400 million jet, will that do it? So interesting, a man driven by greed. I mean, the suffering that comes for the greedy person. If I'm not getting more stuff, more money, more success, more power over other people, I'm not the center of attention. The pain. All of us in the state of egoism, it's only a matter of degree. Exercise your escape clause. Get out. Our new Pope is an Augustinian. St. Augustine is 5th century, isn't he? 400s?
Yeah.
And one of his most famous sayings is, "Thou hast made us for thyself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it finds its rest in thee." Of course, he also said, "Lord, grant me the gift of chastity, just not yet." But it's the mind coming home that satisfies the heart. And we try everything else first for most of us. We get a nickel's worth of pleasure for 95 cents worth of work. It's just bad economics in the end. Next verse.
एवं जीवो हि संकल्प वासनारज्जुवेष्टित दुःखजाल परितात्मा परितात्मा क्रमातायाति चित्तताम्. Thus the individual soul.
Hang on, we got motorcycles going by. Okay, now the English.
Thus the individual soul, encircled by the rope of mental impressions and surrounded by the web of sorrow, gradually attains to the state of thinking.
Yes. Dukkha, the web of sorrow. Ensnared like a bug. And the world's set up. This is the way the Lord set it up. When we satisfy a desire and it's really good and it's really sweet and oh, it was so great, then after the fact we start thinking about it and then we want to repeat it. We start the whole process of longing. Now, again, it doesn't mean we don't enjoy the world. You can walk across the street here and go see the redwoods in the park. But you don't need to take a redwood home. You can't own a sunset. We learn to enjoy, understanding this is Vishayananda. This is a taste of the bliss of the self through the sense objects. In the end, the world is not bad. In the beginning, we talk about, oh, avoid the sense objects like poison, turn your mind to the practice of yoga, etc. But in the end, the sense objects are absolutely neutral. Absolutely neutral. I superimpose the likes and dislikes on me. I as an individual. There's nothing really there but the bliss of the self. You know what it's like? I don't know if you folks get it, but if I go on YouTube, there's these things they call shorts, and they're just little snippets of funny little things. Does your phone do that? Yeah. So you poke on it, and it just gives you enough to tantalize you. That's all. Oh, see another one. Let me see another one. That's the world. And it's so much like the world because there's nothing really there. My latest thing is pygmy goats. I just think they're so cute. But I'm not seeing a real pygmy goat. All I'm seeing is pixels. There's nothing real there. And now it's getting really weird. I saw one short, and it was very clear that it was an AI voice of, I can't remember who it was, somebody famous, but it wasn't really them talking. They would never say that stuff. But they'd gotten his voice. It's not real. It's entertaining, but that's the best the world can give us. Unless we get attached and identified. Then it becomes more and more real to us. Next verse.
इति शक्तिमयं चेतो घनाहंकारतां गतम् कोशकारक्रमीयद्वत् स्वेच्छया याति बन्धनम् एवं जीवाचितो भावाः भवभावनये हिताः. Thus, the individual consciousness, which is full of power or energy, has gone to the state of the dense or gross ego, just as the silkworm in the cocoon goes to the state of bondage by its own will. Thus, individual souls are states of the one consciousness, wished or sought by the imagination or contemplation of worldly existence.
Yeah.
The
Go ahead.
Note, the Upanishads figuratively describe that the one supreme reality desired, let me become many, and became all this universe.
So the idea here is for the woman or the man of knowledge, where that ego sense is dissolved. That person becomes then a transparency for God power, for Shakti. And whatever your particular Swadharma is, one does it with an integrated personality. Your karmas impel you into action, and your emotions are aligned with it, and there's no doubt, no regret, worry, fear, no attachment to the outcomes. This allows the person to move through life with enormous skill and power. Krishna calls yoga is skill in action. One of its benefits. This knowledge makes us master of this world and the beyond. It's not about running away from the world and living in a hut on top of a mountain, unless that's what you want to do, what you're called to do. But that's very different than the person who's ego identified. It's all about me. It's all about me. struggling to get just a little bit of juice from the world, stomping on other people, elbowing our way through life, filled with sadness or anger, doing violence either to ourselves or other people. There's no joy in that kind of life. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
ब्रह्मणः कल्पिताकाराः देवतिर्यङ्गनरादयः देवतिर्यङ्नरादयः विभिन्ना इव दृश्यन्ते बुद्बुदा वारिधेरिव. Gods, animals, men, and others are forms fashioned from Brahman, the Supreme Spirit. They are seen as if divided or varied, just as the bubbles of the ocean.
Bud. Same word as bubbles. That duplicated root. So the idea here is the foam, the bubbles, the froth, different bubbles, all of it is nothing but water. So also all of this, my favorite mantra from Chandogya, Sarvam Kalvidam Brahma, Sarvamidam, all this, Kal, verily, it's God. And when it comes to your mind and my mind, God doesn't manifest or create the world at us and to us, but as us and through us. Depending on the quality of your mind and its transparency, the creative process moves through us. Sankalpena, by means of intention, imagination. And for the jnani, without desire, or without craving is a better word, without neediness. It's an expressive and creative way to live, not an impoverished and needy way to live. Big difference. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
इति श्रीवासिष्ठसंग्रहे दामाद्युपाख्यानं नाम नवमः सर्गः. Thus ends the 9th chapter titled The Story of Dama and Others in the Abridgment of Yoga Vasishtha.
So this was the big story. Remember about the Terminator demons? So the idea here is just to sum up. Do you remember this story, Priya?
I do.
Yeah. So the first set of demons were without ego, but because they engaged in chintya, after the fact reflection on their victories, because the devas kept fighting with them and then running away. We're defeated, we're defeated. And so the devas could defeat them because fear developed. But the second generation, Terminator 2 demons, They not only were without ego, but they were Shrotriyam. Doesn't just mean they could quote the scriptures chapter and verse. It means they understood how to keep these egoistic ideas from arising. Tools like, I cannot think a real thought. No personal sense of self is real. The karta, the agents, the qualities of mind and the force of the past. It's all Leela. It's all a play, a drama. Take it easy. So many tools that keep that personal sense of self arising. We didn't spend much time on it. If we get sloppy, in the beginning especially, and we allow egoism to arise like the first set of demons, the next thing you know, I have this problem, and I have this project and this desire, and I'm not doing well at it, or oh, aren't I so fantastic? I'm doing this. And I want other people to notice me. Then, well, because the attachment and the suffering are the same thing. Like the silkworm who gets all wrapped up, one thread at a time. So do you and me, one vasana. All right, next chapter.
Dashama Sarga, Chapter 10. Dashuropakyanam, the story of Dashura. Srishtikrama, the manner or order of creation. Vasishtha Vacha, Vasishtha said, Brahmam Shrudu Mahabaho, Sharira Grahana Kramam. Brahmam Shrudu Mahabaho, Sharira Grahana Kramam. Dikkaladhyanavacchinnam Atmatattvam Swasaktita Leelayaiva yada datte Dikkalakalitam vapu Tadaiva jiva paryayam Vasanavashatah param Manas sampadyate lolam Kalana kalalon mukham. Mighty armed, Rama. Here the manner in which the body is assumed by Brahman or the Supreme Spirit. When the reality called the Self, which is undivided or unbounded by space and time, out of its own power, and sportively puts on the body divided by space and time, only then does it go to the state of the succession of individual souls. Thereupon, under the influence of wish or idea, the agitated or restless mind, intent on seizing all that is comprehensible, is born or brought about.
Yes. So this is the language of poetry, of mythology. We have to be very careful not to attribute to the infinite anthropomorphic qualities. Why did God create humans? He was lonely. Nonsense. God wanted to sport, to play, to have fun. Nonsense. These are all poetic, mythological things. It just is. But consciousness, what does it do? By its Maya Shakti, spins this Jagat Jala, this web of the world. People by things and beings. sets them all in motion. So whether it's the tiniest organism, subatomic globule, or a star plunging into a black hole, you and me, the politics, the nations that rise and fall, birth, life, death, all of it is the divine Leela, the divine play. And what is human beings, by and large, are in a state of spiritual ignorance, which then means they have desires, which is what keeps the whole thing going. But there are those rare souls who are at the end of the journey, who then come home to God. That's what happens. Priya, have you been to Gangotri?
No, I haven't.
Gangotri is what used to be the headwaters of the Ganges. It's now, the glacier has receded. It's several miles further back at a place called Gomukh now, which literally means the mouth of the cow. It's like an ice cave. There's just this trickle that comes out. But by the time it gets to Gangotri, it's a rushing mountain stream. I've actually bathed in the Ganga at Gangotri. You have to hang on to this chain because it's so fast. You know, you then wash you down the cataracts. But it's the same river that emerges into the floodplain where Bangladesh is. The Gangetic, what do you call that? The alluvial, where it merges with the sea. It's enormous, unbroken, all the way down through the mountains. Last place it goes is Rishikesh, and down onto the plains, and through Varanasi, all the way to the ocean. That's like you and me. I remember someone once asked Swamiji, what about like axe murderers and people who are violent and hurt people and steal and all that sort of stuff? And he said, recent arrivals from the animal kingdom. I always thought that was very funny. But that's like no different than being at Gangotri. And then we have the Ramana Maharshis, the Amajis, these broad beings merging into the sea. So meditating on this should give us great faith. In Christianity, you have infinite results from finite actions. The good Christian life, you're on your deathbed, hopelessly, a good-looking nurse comes in, and you have a lustful idea. All right, you die. Oh, purgatory for 10,000 years, you know, man. In Vedanta, it's the most compassionate of all religions. Everybody makes it. We're just at different points along the way. That's all. That's all. This is the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma. Not only means the teaching, but it also means the process. What is the Dharma of a human being? God consciousness has two elements. First, it's the swabhav, your own self nature, your swarup. How do you know you are you? You do not see, hear, taste, touch, smell, motor, think yourself, yet you know you are. The cosmic joke, because everybody already has that, that's the real eternal knowledge. But then there's the process through time and space of an ordinary bogey beginning to ask the questions, having some vichara, some investigation, eventually becomes a mumukshu, seeker after liberation, a sadhak, does sadhana, which culminates in being a sadhu, who's accomplished in their sadhana. And then in realization, they become a siddha. They have accomplished everything that needs to be done. Next verse.
Kalayanti manashakti adau bhavayati kshanat akasha bhavana machham shabda bija rason mukhem. The energy of the mind, thinking, first calls into existence in a moment the clear conception or idea of the sky or ether, looking up to or intent on the essence that is the seed sound, that is, the relish for the subtle sound principle, brings Akasha or the ether into being.
So what he's going to do now is an exegesis on the tanmatras. The tanmatras are the five subtle elements: earth, air, fire, water, and space. Then we have what's called the panchakaranam, the fivefold division and subsequent recombination. So if you look in some of Swamiji's books in Atmabodha and Viveka Chudamani, he does this thing, looks like a little Pac-Man. You know, it's not the clearest. Here in Yoga Vasishtha, we get the clarity of it. So I'm going to give you the principle first. So as we go through these verses, you'll understand what he's driving at. So if you and I look at the table's made of wood. What's wood made of? Cellulose. What's cellulose made of? Largely carbon, we would say. That's the element. But if we are dreaming that you're here in my living room and you're seeing the coffee table, can you say that the coffee table of your dream is made of wood? No. It seems like wood, but what it is some combination of seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. It has a shape. That's its seeability. If I had polished it with pledge, you could smell the lemon oil. fragrance. If I spilled my salsa on it, I could taste it. I could knock it with my fist. You could hear it. Seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling. I think I got them all. So each one of the elements corresponds to a sense. Seeing is the element of fire. Hearing is sound, is space. Tasting is water. Touching is air. That seems a little bit counterintuitive, but you can feel the wind on your skin. And earth is smelling. So if you live in an agrarian society, you go into the freshly tilled earth, you can smell the earth. So these tanmatras are in their purest form at the most subtle level. Then they divide and then recombine and then divide and grossify, divide and grossify till we get down to the physical plane. It's still just grossified mind. What's the difference between the table of my dream and the table that's right here in class? Not a whole lot. In the waking state, it's just a grosser, denser vibration. It's like the low notes on the piano as opposed to the high notes on the piano. It's the only difference. Thing is, the more they become grossified, or better way to phrase it, how they become grossified is through mind. I reify the world by paying attention to it, by thinking about it, by concentrating on it, by habit. So many of our spiritual traditions invite us to change our perspective, to change our viewpoint. Those of us who are in the 12-step traditions, one of the things our sponsors give us is a gratitude list. Many of you ever done a gratitude list?
Mm-hmm.
Yes?
Yes.
So what you do is every morning you list 10 things you're grateful for. Now people get on their phone and they text them to their friends. But what does a gratitude list do? You tell us.
Well, it reframes how you see the world.
Yeah.
So instead of seeing the negative, you start concentrating on seeing what would be the positive.
Yes.
And then that affects your pattern of how you start seeing other things. So instead of the pattern of seeing negative, then it's the pattern of seeing the positive.
Yeah. And then also in the 12-step programs, we have what we call God shots. I've turned my will and my life over to the care of God. How has God showed up for me today? In other words, as Carl Jung talked about it, we pay attention to the synchronicity of the universe. It's not coincidence. It's all organized. It starts to reveal just incredible meaning. Why? because the world is nothing but the outpicturing of my mental state. That's all it is. So we go back to the three big questions this text addresses. Who am I? What is this world? And how has it come about? We've all worked really hard on who am I? I am that witnessing consciousness. I'm that ground of being. But what is this world? This world, first of all, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. Brahman alone is real, the phenomenal world, the names and forms are illusion. How have they come about? Sankalpena, by means of wish, will, intention, desire, thought. Let us review the law of Sankalpa. Whatever you look at, you're going to think about. Whatever you look at repeatedly, like your gratitude list, you're going to think about repeatedly. Repeated thought becomes habituated thought. Habituated thought sinks into the unconscious and becomes the law of my life. Now, if my habit is gloom and doom thinking, I'm a victim, nobody loves me, everybody hates me. Figuring out why is the booby prize. Most frequently, that's my family of origin, this, and I was abused here, and all that stuff. It's very, valid, but it doesn't change the habituated thinking. In order to do that, we have to do tapas. What's tapas mean? You know this word.
Yeah, penance.
Well, actually not. It means heat. But for yogis, the definition of tapas is the effort it takes to move a habituated chain of thinking into a new direction. Now, we don't have a lot of control over the first thought that arises. But we do have the ability to turn the mind to something else. There's no magic bullet. There's no pill. There's no psychedelic that's going to do this. This is manual labor. I'm not making this up. Second chapter of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Tapas Swadhyayeshwara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. Take it from the inside out. Swadhyaya. For the Raja Yogis, that means an inventory of my psychology, what my kleshas are, my defilements, my afflictions, as well as my strengths. An inventory doesn't have to always be done in red ink. When I begin to stand back and see these habituated flows of thought, then I have to do tapas. Oh, it's so hard. it just keeps happening, Jim. What do I do? Ishwara pranidhana, trustful surrender to God. God help me today. Free me from this particular character defect. Sometimes we have to boil it down to just thought by thought. I was working with this guy, and I've been working with him for several years. And one of the stories that gets repeated is how his dad does everything wrong. He's quite judgmental towards his dad. Yeah, leave it alone, work on his own stuff. Well, he's just moved in with his new boyfriend. And guess what's happening in his mind? Can you guess? He's making the boyfriend wrong. He's doing to the boyfriend just like his mother does to his dad. And he learned to do to his dad. But he's a good yogi. First of all, he's not really been acting on it. But he's identified, oh, I'm a judgmental person. And what does mind say? Boyfriend's doing it wrong. He does this wrong, he does that wrong, the way he spends his money's wrong. Does this sound familiar to any of you? But because this guy's a really good yogi, first of all, he's conscious enough to see, oh, I've just recreated a family pattern. That doesn't fix it. That just gives us a starting place. Now we must do the tapas. So when the judgmental thought arises, you give it to mind. Sometimes it helps just to do opposite thought, opposite idea. Act contrary to it. This is the practice. This is the practice. Now, notice it presupposed that he'd done the work to have enough clarity to see, oh, I'm judgmental, just like my family dynamic. Cool. No self-hatred or anything like that. We've all got these kleshas. But they don't go away by magic. We work on it. I have another friend. I love this story. And he realized that he's really smart. So he has an opinion on most everything and would be very free on giving advice to people. And he had a mentor suggest to him that he go for an entire week and not give his opinion unless somebody asked for it. And he was appalled. Not one person wanted his opinion. He made it all up. So this is how we do it. This is how we do it. Issue by issue, thought by thought. To free ourselves from these kleshas, we call them, defilements or afflictions, the vasanas. Why? Because they are the creative element about my life. They become the way I see the world. Nothing wrong with the world. Any thoughts on this process? Master Jesus said, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So this is the work to be done. All right, next verse.
ततः तद्घरतां यातं घनस्पन्दक्रमात्मनः भावयत्यनिलस्पन्दं स्पर्शबीजरसोन्मुखम्. Then that mind, becoming gross in the course of its gross vibrations, conceives or brings into being the vibration of air, looking up to or intent on the essence that is the subtle principle of touch, that is the desire for the subtle touch principle brings air into being.
Yes, so we talked about this relationship between the tanmatras, the elements, and the sense perceptions. So I won't go into it more. Next verse.
ताभ्याम् आकाशवाताभ्यां दृढाभ्यासात् पुनस्ततः शब्दस्पर्शस्वरूपाभ्यां सङ्घर्षात् जायते नलः. From those elements, the ether and the air, and again by firm repetition thence, out of the natural state of the principles of sound and touch, fire is born by interaction or friction. The desire for the subtle form principle brings fire or light into being.
Yes. Next one.
Mana tadraguna मनस्ताद्रगुणाविष्टं रसतन्मात्रवेदनं क्षणात् चेतत्यपां शैत्यं जलसंवित् ततो भवेत्. The mind possessed of such qualities and seeking the experience of the subtle principle of taste, in a moment comprehends the coldness of the waters, and thence comes into being the consciousness of water.
Yes. So he's going through all the five senses, seeing how the five elements are a metaphor for them. And again, it becomes very easy to understand, like we did with the table. If you go to the dream state, this world is no different. Next verse.
ततः ताद्रगुणाविष्टं मनोभावयति क्षणात् गन्धत्तन्मात्रमेतस्मात् भूमिसंवित् ततो भवेत्. Then, possessed of such qualities, the mind conceives in a moment the subtle principle of smell. From this, the knowledge of the earth element then comes into being.
Yes. Going on.
अथेत्यं भूततन्मात्रैः वेष्टितं तनुतां त्यजत् वपुः वह्निकणाकारं स्फुरितं व्योम्नि पश्यति. Then, enveloped by the subtle elemental principles such as sound, touch, etc. Then enveloped by the subtle elemental principles such as sound, touch, etc. Thus, and abandoning its thinness, the mind sees the body in the sky of perception, shining in the form of sparks of fire.
Yes. So what happens? The more I am engaged in sense perception, it is the reification of the sankalpa that makes it appear as solid and separate. And science gets so close to this, all those experiments that have been done with light. Is it a particle or is it a wave? If you measure it, it acts like a particle, a photon. But if you don't, then it doesn't. It's energy. It acts like a wave. So the principle is it's the act of knowing it that concretizes it. Do you get that? It's so close to the Vedanta. It's so close now. Nothing is ever good or bad, but thinking makes it so. Well, nothing is unless you know it in the end. Now remember, Krishna, Brahman, is the knower of the field in all fields. It's not your ego sense only. But the ramifications are incredible. Yes, this world is like a dream, but it doesn't have to be a nightmare. Sometimes these karmas are very deep and they're difficult to change. Sometimes all we can do is accept. But we have a lot more ability to make a difference. I don't know who first brought forth this notion. Might have been Werner Erhard, an idea whose time has come. I think it's older than that. You've all heard that?
No.
Yes?
No.
But as we move through society, an idea, its time has come. I'm thinking something as simple as same-sex marriage. Now, I've got a decade or two older than you, but I can remember when being gay was illegal, immoral, pathological, and fixable. When I first came to San Francisco, the gay bar owners had to pay off the police because there would be raids on the bars and the vans. Go in and cart everybody off to jail. They could walk into your house, and if a same-sex couple were in bed together, it was a crime. And then almost overnight, we had same-sex marriage. Not just in this country, but all over the world. It was an idea whose time had come. Same thing for women's voting rights. It was 1920 when women got the vote in this country.
Sometime around there.
I think it was earlier in some European countries. Or the end of slavery in the 19th century. Been around for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. And then it was an idea whose time had come. It ended. People were awake enough to see the inhumanity of it. But the point I'm getting at, these ideas transform and create our world, our society. So in the beginning as yogis, main thing we want to do is step back, be the witness of your thoughts. You are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You're the untouched, uninvolved witness. But later on, you can start to pay attention to the content. understanding. Thoughts are things and they have wings. And there's no off switch unless you go to bed at night and go to sleep. So we want to be a little careful. If we engage, it's real simple. If you reduce it all to ahimsa, just don't be a jerk. Any energy you put out, gross or subtle, will come back. No escape. The law of karma is immutable as the law of gravity. Part of this world, the phenomenal world. Do good, be good, serve, be generous, be kind, be truthful. This sets up habituated sankalpa. This becomes suvage, auspicious wish, desire, intention. So one of the major teachings of this scripture and when we do sankalpa, understand it's not about willpower. That isn't it. That's actually a psychic isometric. It's one part of your mind battling against another part. The most powerful sankalpa is the one that's calm, clear, unimpeded, no. Not a lot of resistance or sensation to it. Just a clear, unattached intention. All right. I think this is a good place to stop. What verse are we on for next week?
We are in 9 and 10.
9 and 10. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.